Okay, so we went ahead and taped all of our seams here. We got the mesh tape and the tapered joints, and then again on our butt joint, and then the Flex 90 in the corners, side corners and ceiling corners. Then we also finished our corner bead here on our window, and again that would go on all outside corners. And we went ahead and checked all of our screws to make sure they're sitting below the surface. So we're ready to start our mudding process. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna get some of our mud here. This is pre-mixed stuff, which I recommend with volunteers. You can get the unmixed stuff. It just comes in a bag in powder form. And then you add the water and then stir it up real good. I don't recommend that because there's nothing wrong with it. It works fine. It's just that when working with volunteers, they like to add a little bit too much water. Then you got to add more mix and just back and forth till you get the consistency just right. So it's just a little bit easier, a little bit easier just to use this pre-mixed stuff, and it's ready to go right out of the bucket. So what I like to do is just kind of check my mix here. Typically, I like to use just a little bit more of a watery mix. This doesn't look too bad, but it's handy to have a bottle of water nearby if you just want a little bit extra, and it doesn't take too much extra. You can see I maybe poured not even 1/8 of a cup of water in there. But once you mix that in real well, this will get to the consistency that I like. And when you mud a little bit, you'll kind of learn a proper consistency. It'll 99% of the time, if the bucket is fresh and you just bought it from the store, you won't have to do anything to it. It'll be ready to go right out of the bucket. If you like it a little bit more soupy, you can add some water, but make sure you don't add too much. So get this mixed nice and well. And then what we're gonna do to start here, we're just gonna be filling some screw holes. This is a super simple process. And again, I mentioned it before, but it's worth mentioning again. This first coat of mud, we're just getting mud on the wall. You don't want to build it up. Basically, you want to get some mud on the tape, get some on your Flex 90, and just cover up your screw holes. If you put a lot of mud on the wall right now, you're just going to be sanding it all off later. So just the bare minimum to start with. What's going to happen if you put a lot of mud on your screw holes? Basically, it's going to dry and you'll have an indentation anyway. It'll take a second coat of mud anyway. So just put the bare minimum on this first coat because we're going to add more later. So what you do, you just take some mud here and you're just going to go over the screw holes just once and fill them all in. So basically what I do is just have a little bit of mud on the knife, do one pass over it, and then I come back at an angle and take all that excess off. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to keep playing with it and keep taking mud out of it, because now you can see I pulled mud out of that screw hole. So just go over it once and pull the mud away. And just go over every screw hole and cover it up. So it goes pretty quickly once you get going here. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of these off camera here. But that's basically what you want to do. Just to give you one example of what not to do, if you had a screw hole here and you just leave a bunch of mud on like that, that's going to dry and you're going to be sanding that one screw for 20 minutes to get all that mud off. So I'm going to clean my knife off here and basically swipe that off. that's how much extra mud would be on that one screw that you're just gonna have to sand off later. It's a waste of mud and it's a waste of time. So just get all that excess mud off and you'll be good to go. All right, so the next thing that we can do here is go ahead and tape all of our tapered seams here. So what I like to do is I like to just get some mud along here. And you just kind of keep going back and forth, adding mud and pulling it across. And you just want to make sure all that tape is secured. Mud drops on the floor, don't worry about it. Don't pick it up and try to use it again because it's going to be all full of sawdust. And again, I'm taking a lot of mud off here. The tape's still showing. That's okay. That goal is just to get the tape wet and get the mud into that seam back there. And then our next coat will come back and start to build that seam up, and then our third coat will feather it out and make it nice and flat. So just getting mud on the seams right now. Okay. A little bit left over here. Okay, so that joint's pretty good. We'll let that dry. Again, we'll go back and do all the rest of our tapered seams here. Just wanted to show you the first coat on a butt seam. It's almost exactly the same as our tapered seam here. Again, the purpose is just to get mud on the joint. So you can see I got the mud on, and now I come back with another pass, and I'm just very lightly passing my knife along here. I left a little bit thicker of a coat, so now I have all the tape covered. But what I'm going to do now is kind of feather this first one out. I want to start building up this joint a little bit more than I would with the tapered. Again, this tapered joint, if you have a close-up here, you can see that there's that cove in here. So that mud, after we build it up, from here to here, we have a place where we can feather it out. This butt seam here, we don't have anywhere where we have a cove. We actually probably more have a hill here. So what we're gonna do is we build it up just a little bit, and then this first pass, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the edge of my knife on the wall here. I'm gonna put a lot of pressure on that edge and basically just skim the edge of this coat here. And I just took a little bit of mud off. I'm gonna do the same on the other side. This time I'm gonna put more pressure on this side of the knife and just carefully bring it all the way down here. So now there's some spots where the tape's still showing, that's okay. But basically what I've done is I've taken all the excess mud off and I've started to build up this, this seam here. So we'll go ahead and let that guy dry. And then the only thing we have left to do is to address our corners here. So the ceiling and the wall corners are both basically the same concept here. Just like both of our other seams here, we're just getting mud on for this first pass. So what I like to do is I like to just work on one side at a time, and I get some mud on the wall. Okay, and then just like I was on the butt seam here, I'm putting pressure on one edge of my knife and just kind of running along here. Oops. So one hint here, if you're kind of new to taping and mudding, there's no problem at all to just doing one side at a time. It's actually quite a bit easier. If you run your knife along this side, it takes some practice to not mess up the mud on this side. So if you want to, just get the mud on one side, let it dry, and then come back and do the other side. It takes a little bit longer, it takes twice as long, but then you don't mess up your corner, which is what most people get aggravated with in the first place. So we'll go ahead here and finish taping or mudding off this corner. We'll finish mudding off all of our seams, and then we'll come back in once it's all done to show the finished product after the first coat. Okay, so we got our tapered seams taped here, and we got our screws taped, and we have one corner. I'm just gonna demonstrate one corner for the purposes of this video here. But there's a few things I wanted to show before we moved on, just to kind of show we're just slapping mud on here, nice and thin. There's gonna be things like we have a screw that's it's embedded, but I just took a little bit too much mud off. No worries, it's just the first coat. We're gonna put 2 more coats of mud on. So don't try to go back and get this first coat perfect. You're gonna have stuff like that. And I think there's one screw here. If we can get a close up here, there's just a little bit of a pinhole here that is showing. Don't worry, because we're gonna put more mud over that. Things like we have a few little ridges here, a few little bumps. Don't worry about those things with this first coat, because what we can do is we can just knock that down real quick with a sanding block before we start our second coat, and we'll be ready to go. So first coat's on here, and then I just wanted to show a window mudding before we moved on to the second coat. So again, we have our corner bead on this window, or if we were doing an outside corner on any wall. It's the same concept here as all of the seams. We're just getting mud on this first coat. So just gonna come in here, get some mud on the outside here. And I'm not worrying about covering the metal just yet. I'm just getting mud on it. Okay, so you can see I put some mud on there, got quite a bit excess there, so I'm just gonna take one quick pass and take all the excess off. So with that one pass there, you can see we have some ridges. Again, don't worry about it, this is just the first coat. And we have metal showing everywhere. Basically, what this does is it gives you a really good base to be able to start building up. If we went ahead and tried to build this up right away, we'd be putting on a really thick layer of mud. One, it's gonna take a long time to dry. And two, if you're in either a really cold climate or a really hot climate, it's not gonna dry properly. So basically, you could just create a weak joint, and over time it's gonna crack. Either water is gonna stay in the joint or it's gonna come out of it way too quickly. This mud is meant to have just a real thin layer. Once it's a thin layer, it dries in the proper amount of time and you won't have cracking issues. So once we get the front on, basically the only thing left to do then is to apply mud to the inside. It's the same process here. We're just gonna get mud on the corner. Top and bottom here. Just get it on for the first pass and then take all the excess off the second pass. And I don't normally worry about getting too much of it on the window itself. You don't want to get it in the window, but if it touches the vinyl part, no big worries, it cleans up decently later. If you're working next to a wood window, kind of the same issue. Basically, you just want to make sure you get all that mud off. It cleans up real nice with some sandpaper. But you want to make sure you get all that off before you do any staining of the trim if it isn't already stained. Because you'll see that come through the stain. Alright, so for this first coat here, just got enough mud on. Not doing a perfect job here, but that's okay because it's the first coat. The second coat, we're going to start thinking about some finish. So I'll go ahead and finish these other two sides here, and then we'll be ready to let it dry. And we'll talk about dry times when we start our second coat. So we'll get this window finished up here.